Welcome to the writing workshop brought to you by the Kathleen Jones White Writing Center at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. My name is Krista Saraf, and today's topic is MLA style. As a student, I use MLA when I write papers related to the liberal arts and humanities. There are some important updates to MLA style since the guide that MLA used for years was taken out of print in the summer of 2016. In April 2016, MLA introduced the 8th edition of the handbook, which is now the source that writers use for MLA today. So today we'll talk about how to cite using the 8th edition. But first, a word about the Writing Center. The Writing Center frequently helps students with citation, including MLA, but Writing Center tutors can help with every part of the writing process. Our online Writing Center lets you meet with a tutor, and you'll also find handouts and videos to help you with your writing assignments. If you find this video helpful and want to see what else we can help you with, visit www.iup.edu/writing-center. There are 3 ways to get help with your paper. The Writing Center is located on campus at Eicher Hall, but you will also find us in Stapleton Library or online. Plus, videos like this one are housed on our website and on YouTube, alongside with our handouts. Today you'll learn how to integrate source material, including how to use in-text citation, using MLA style. We'll also discuss how to create a works cited list at the end of your paper in MLA style. And if you don't have time to watch the whole video, or if you know exactly what you want to learn, you can easily move around this video by scrolling until you see a section that interests you. We've also included the timestamps in the video description so that you can quickly jump from section to section. So what is MLA style? Well, MLA style is primarily used in the humanities. You may have heard of MLA or other style manuals such as APA, and maybe you're wondering why there are different kinds of style manuals. The purpose of using one style manual for your paper is consistency. Think of your citations as a roadmap. Readers of your paper may want to find out where you got your sources, and it would be confusing if each reference was formatted differently. Readers might not know which part of the citation refers to the article title, for example, and which part of the citation refers to the journal title, for example. By working with one style guide throughout your paper, you ensure that you present your sources consistently so that readers can trace your sources. So let's get started. The first part of this video reviews how to integrate quotations in your paper. There are 3 parts to integrating sources into your paper: a signal phrase that appears before the outside material, the outside material which you borrowed from another source, and the parenthetical reference which tells your reader where you found the outside material. A signal phrase is not always required, but you should avoid dropped quotations, which are quotations that are just dropped into the text with no introduction from you. Signal phrases help you in several ways. They allow you to prepare readers for a change of voice in outside material, identify sources of outside material without interrupting the flow of reading, refer readers who want additional information about the source to the works cited list at the end, and to keep the parenthetical references short. Here's an example of a signal phrase. In this example, as Jerry Rumble points out, is the signal phrase because it appears before the outside material. When you use a signal phrase, it's important to also use a strong verb to lead into the outside material. Here are some examples. Can you think of other strong verbs that you might use? We just reviewed signal phrases, so now let's talk about how to include outside material in your paper. In the outlined box on the screen, we have an example of an in-text citation and an MLA paper. Notice the outside material in blue. Because the writer used the author's last name, Dober, in the signal phrase, the reader can easily identify that the quoted material belongs to Dober. Keep in mind, though, that MLA requires you to use the author's full name the first time you mention the author. For example, if this were the first time you were quoting Dober, you would write, as Alice Dober argues in the conclusion of her book, so that the reader has the author's full name. One more thing to notice on this screen. The outside material fits nicely with the signal phrase. In other words, the grammar works, as do the ideas. If you cannot find a way to use the author's original words because they don't fit with the grammar of your signal phrase, you might consider paraphrasing the author instead. Now let's look at paraphrased material. The difference between quotation and paraphrase is that quotation uses the author's exact words, while paraphrase captures the author's ideas but uses the student's own words. There are several things to remember when integrating long quotations into papers that use MLA style. Even for long quotations, be sure to introduce the quotation with a signal phrase or sentence followed by a colon. Be sure to use block quotations when quoting 4 lines or more, and make sure that you indent 1 inch from the left margin, that you omit quotation marks, and that you use a period at the end of the quotation, not after the page number. Here's an example taken from the book Rules for Writers by Hacker and Summers. Note that the introducing sentence appears before the quote and is followed by a colon. Also notice that the page numbers are in parentheses after the final period. Another question we get at the Writing Center is whether or not it's okay to alter a quotation. In this example, the author added the word minorities to clarify to the reader the subject that shares stories. The bracketed text is helpful because otherwise the reader might not know who many refers to. So you can alter a quotation using brackets. A question we also frequently get in the Writing Center is this: is it okay to delete words from a quote? The answer is yes, so long as you don't alter the meaning. You may want to delete words for a number of reasons. For example, maybe only some of the quote is relevant to your point. Maybe you want to add emphasis, or maybe you're looking for a way to increase clarity for your readers. If you delete part of a quotation, use ellipses like the example on the screen. We just discussed signal phrases and integrating quotes using MLA. Now let's discuss MLA in text citation. The parenthetical reference, along with the signal phrase, serves the purpose of citation. We also include something at the end of the sentence to show the reader exactly where the borrowed words or ideas come from. This is called citation. You must include a parenthetical citation and/or a signal phrase when you borrow words from any source by quoting, whether a keyword, a phrase, a sentence, or multiple sentences. You must also cite when you borrow ideas from a source by paraphrasing or summarizing parts of it, pulling statistics or facts, or using information from tables, graphs, or diagrams. There are several reasons why you should cite sources: to give credit to those whose words and ideas you have borrowed, built upon, or argued with, to enhance your credibility and situate yourself as a member of a specific academic community, to practice academic integrity and avoid plagiarism, and to enable your reader to locate sources referred to in your text. Here's an example. Note that the signal phrase already gives the name of the author being cited, but if you don't include the author's name in the signal phrase, you include it in the parentheses, like the example at the bottom of the screen. Sometimes you'll need to cite a text written by 2 authors. If so, include both authors' names in the in-text citation, like the example on the screen. The second example on the screen shows you how to cite a text by 3 or more authors. Note that you include the last name of the first author listed and then the words et al. When a writer's quoted words appear in a source written by someone else, begin the citation with the phrase quoted in, as seen in the example on the screen. We've talked about how to integrate quotations and how to use in-text citation. Now let's talk about creating a works cited list at the end of your paper using MLA style. You need to use a works cited list when you borrow words or borrow ideas. Note that this is the same rule as for parenthetical citation. You are listing the sources you cited in the text and only the sources that you cited, not all of the sources that you might have consulted. Here's an example of a works cited list. Notice the following items. Works cited is written at the top of the page. The sources are sorted in alphabetical order by last name. The first line of each entry is flush left, and a hanging indent is used for the subsequent lines within the entry. It's easy to use hanging indents in your paper. First, open a Word document and highlight the text that you wish to indent. Then right-click and select Paragraph. On the window that pops up, look for Indentation, then Special, and select Hanging from the drop-down menu. Here's what a hanging indent looks like in a paper. Notice that the first line is not indented, but all the other lines are indented. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that MLA underwent changes in 2016. There is a new MLA style based on a template that can be adapted to any use. It is based on a list of core elements that are given in a specific order. Not all texts will have all elements. Note that the 8th edition did just come out in spring of 2016. Therefore, handbooks such as early editions of the book Rules for Writers may be out of date. If you use a citation machine like EasyBib, you'll also want to double check to be sure that you're using the 8th edition of MLA. The Online Writing Center at Purdue University also shares the 8th edition of MLA, and you can access that website at al.purdue.edu. MLA is no longer organized by publication type. However, you might find it useful to approach documentation within the framework of commonly used source types. Using the general template that MLA provides allows us to create a more specific template for books, articles, and websites. But there are many other possibilities, so be prepared to use the template and make decisions. There can be more than one right way to cite each source. For example, on the screen, I've shared one way to cite a book. Here's an example of how to cite an article. DOI means Direct Object Identifier and is often provided on the first page of the document. Leave out the DOI if you went to the library to read the actual journal. If you look back at the template I shared, you'll see that the journal is the first container on the template and that the database is the second container. Now that we've looked at articles, let's look at an example of how to cite a web source. By the way, this example comes from example number 5 on page 7 in the MLA handbook. But notice that when you cite web sources, you need the title of the article, the title of the website, the publisher, if different from the website name, the date of publication, and the location or URL. If you need more examples, you can find them on the Purdue Online Writing Lab or the MLA Style Center. Keep in mind that you'll want to double check any other handbooks that you have to make sure that you're using the 8th edition of MLA. Okay, let's practice. On the screen is a screenshot of an article found from the database JSTOR. So how would you cite this source? You might want to pause the video here and compare the information on the screen to an example of a journal article citation from the MLA 8th edition on the MLA website or on al.purdue.edu. Hopefully you came up with something like this. Here's an example of a proper citation for this article. Now let's imagine you want to create a works cited entry for this website. I've included the URL on the screen since you'll need to include a URL in your citation. You also need to include the author's name, the title of the article, the title of the website, which is The Atlantic, and the date of the publication. So you can copy-paste the URL into your browser to find this information, or you can read it from the screenshot here. Here's the proper way to cite this website. Note that on your computer, you'd also want to include a hanging indent for the 2nd through 6th lines. Okay, so we've covered a lot of material today, so let's review. We discussed why signal phrases and quotation marks are important in MLA, how to cite sources in your text using MLA, and how to create a works cited list at the end of your paper using MLA. If you have questions or would like one of our trained tutors to consult with you about your paper, you can reach us on the Indiana University of Pennsylvania campus or online. Thank you for tuning in for this workshop from the Kathleen Jones White Writing Center at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. We'll see you again soon, and in the meantime, happy writing!